At one moment, I was like a human male in my backyard picking up a Ken doll, and then like somehow magically I had become that doll, and I was being picked up now by Greta Gerwig. And like the only way to become human again was to just follow her very specific directions.
I think Barbie's been capturing people's attention since the day she was invented, and she is an icon, but she's a very complicated one. And there's been times when Barbie has been ahead of her times, for sure, and there's been times when she's been behind her times. But she's always been evolving, and I kind of just feel like this movie is like the next evolution.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken! We had movie church on Sunday mornings where we could go to the Notting Hill Electric, as you guys know, and see a movie that was somehow a reference for Barbie. And one of the movies, I remember after the Barbie sleepover, the movie church movie that next morning was His Girl Friday, which had a lot to do with like the rhythm of the dialogue.
Yeah. In terms of how they moved and how they behaved, I wanted it to feel heightened, but I didn't want it to feel like a sketch where they were, you know, moving around, because I was like, well, that will get tiresome in about 30 seconds. But I also feel like when in movie church, but just in general, like soundstage musicals and like Oklahoma or Singing in the Rain, like there's a quality in which the way people move, it's just, if you saw anyone on the street looking like one of the background dancers in Oklahoma, you'd be like, oh no, something's wrong. But they're always like in the background, like looking at a hat, but it's like with their whole bodies, wah! Like it's like, and I was just like, and that's why sort of for the actors who are all wonderful dancers as well, I wanted to surround them with dancers. So actually everyone in Barbie Land is a dancer. So I didn't have background artists specifically. They were all, you know, they were all these wonderful dancers. So all the Barbies and Kens you see on the beach and everywhere, they hold themselves differently than like, you know, civilians. Someone said, Jenny White, our choreographer, said, dancers, their bodies always have a direction, and that's different than sort of normal people. So I thought that was kind of like, in this conception of Barbie Land, it's like a soundstage musical. All the Barbies and Kens are like on.
We didn't have like Barbie boot camp, but I feel like Barbie dance rehearsals became the thing where like everybody kind of reached a wavelength, like a very high pitched wavelength. Yes. I remember Greta describing it as like, I want it to be the sleepover where it's like the coolest girls and the prettiest girls and the funniest girls, but they're also the nicest girls. And that is what that whole period felt like. It was just like very high fever pitch love for all of it.
I remember the first dance rehearsal where the rest of you girls came to join, and up until then I'd been doing a few of them on my own, which was super fun because like the kind of dancing you wanted was like, you know, how you dance in your bedroom. So it was like very fun. But then as soon as all the other Barbies like started coming in one rehearsal, and it was like, yes, girl, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, the movie's begun now. It was so fun. It was kind of like how your girlfriends always like amp you up if you're out dancing. It felt like that.
I love the dance. The dancing was so special. And also just like, I liked that it was just like everyone was actually doing the dancing, and it was about like, I don't know, that sweetness. And whenever I need a lift, I always they have a video of Michael learning the dance for the first time, and it's like, it's the best video when you do this, going in a circle. I'm like,
I still have it all in my body. And this one is the best.
He had the idea because you guys have the whole Ken's part of it, and he was like, Alan would know the Ken dance and be doing it on the side.
As a fan.
As a fan.
A rabid fan. This is what they do.
And then so he got his own, and then he nailed it.
Alan's dream is one day someone twists an ankle and they're like, we need a fifth. Who knows the dance?
I don't remember much about this experience, honestly. I felt like, at one moment I was like a human male in my backyard picking up a Ken doll, and then like somehow magically I had become that doll, and I was being picked up now by Greta Gerwig. And like the only way to become human again was to just follow her very specific directions. At a certain point I thought I had like left that kid behind, and I realized that I needed his help to make this movie. So I had to go back and make peace with him and ask for his help, you know. It was good for me. Thank you for that.
Getting the whole crew to dance as like a morning warm-up was a real icebreaker, I think, for the entire film.
But Greta, I remember you saying that you felt like dancing was such a great way to break the ice for people, because you don't have to like look each other in the eye and come up with conversation, but you can like move together.
I like to try and make eye contact
During dancing.
While you dance.
Well, if everyone's real relaxed, it can get really to the bottom of something.
Diamonds under my eyes. This is the best day ever. It is the best day ever. So is yesterday, and so is tomorrow, and every day from now until forever. Do you guys ever think about dying?
Mark Ronson and Andrew Wyatt, who did all of the music, and I had no idea how to make a pop song. I was just like, I need a pop song, and we started trading music a bunch, and then we knew we wanted like a disco song. That was like the thing, and I think Dua Lipa makes like modern tragic disco hits. Like that's like her, I mean, when I think of her albums, and when he was like, I think Dua would be great for this, and I was like, oh my God. And then she came one morning at 7 a.m. just like perfectly on time, totally ready, and I was like, what are you doing today? And she was like, oh, I'm just performing at the O2 Arena. And I was like, what? But she...
And we went to her concert.
And we went to her concert,
was so fun.
She has that ability to like write a disco song that's like so much fun, but when you actually listen to it, you're like, she's sad, you know? Well, that's what it is. And you're like, oh, you're like, that whole song's sad. I love disco music, and disco also felt like really related to Barbie, like in its heart, because it's like so hopeful about people, which is like disco assumes you want to dance. That's not the assumption that every musical genre makes, but disco makes it. But yeah, so we knew it was that song, and then we had this whole dance number, which was amazing.
And then the
and Issa got, sadly, I feel like you've never quite forgiven me.
No, I badmouth you in every single
I know. Some people came in and told me that.
It's changed. Did they really?
Yeah, someone was like, Issa says, you didn't give her any, you just threw her in. And I was like, well, she needs the solo. And
I just didn't think the president would have to dance. But it was fine. I was game. I was coming from DC, and I got the email that I was to learn a dance number that would be performed on my first day. And I was like, oh, okay. And I learned it with the help of my friends who were in DC with me. And they were hyping me up, much like the dancers were hyping you up. And then I landed to a video that the dance had changed. So then I learned it that day, and it was just in front of everyone. So it was like the first day of school, and I was naked.
But you're so great.
Thank you so much, because you cut it really well. I appreciated that. I watched it, and I was like, oh, okay.
In the music video that Dua Lipa actually made, she does the dance you do, and it cuts back to, and I was like, well, see?
There you go. Thank you for that.
She was great. My only sadness is the sort of, you guys didn't get to be in the dance.
I'm not sad.
I
don't perform choreographed movement.
Yes, you do.
No, that would have become clear had I had to participate in the dance.
I've seen you
for the best.
Perform choreographed
I don't
movement.
dance. I don't.
That's not true. We've danced together, Kate.
We sure have. I remember how I didn't and couldn't.
You tap danced with me.
I don't tap dance.
You did.
We made up a memory, Greta.
No, that's not true. We tap danced on chairs. I remember we had the whole. Anyway, this is real.
If you can't tell, they went to college together.
We went to college together. We were actually in a play.
But we did. We tap danced.
No, but I appreciate whenever I'm left out of a dance number, because I find that the worst thing that could happen to me.
Very relatable.
Having to learn a dance. And I did do those. Those were practical, my body split.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for owning that. Every single person asked if that was your leg, and so the way that you sold that, you should be proud.
That's my crotch, 180 degrees. No, I did not have to do a split, and which is just as well. Can't do that. And so that was a fake leg and a heavy one.
Yeah. It was actually the set design was so amazing, because Cera, who did the set design, was like, I've made all these like like holes in the wall where she can put her real leg in and then we'll rig the other leg up. So it was all practical. It was like done, like it was like a practical effect.
Where was your other leg?
In the wall.
In the wall, sort of like this. Like if this is my leg, like my other leg is here.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
I don't know why I asked that. I can't picture it.
And then there was the one where you could like your whole legs are down and then you had 2 fake legs on the side.
Thank you for thinking of that whole everything about it and making it so I didn't have to. Obviously, the sets were sculpture and art, and the costumes and makeup and hair were like such art and sculpture. Every square millimeter of every look was like so finely considered, and there was so much philosophy and thought behind it. I remember Ivana, who did our hair, which was mostly wigs, was telling me that she had experimented a lot with like the shape of the hair and how to make it doll-like, and that she arrived at like it had to be thin on top and then thicker on the bottom in order to look doll-like. And so we talked a lot about what this sort of Barbie who had been played with and burned and drawn on would look like, and arrived at like, I just pulled a bunch of pictures off the internet of I think I typed in like effed up doll. Just like we sent all these pictures back and forth, and like even the placement of like pink streaks in the hair and like the placement of the marker around the eye was very, very considered and thought through. Barbie has been played with for too much, is typically naked and has lost her clothes, and so I couldn't be nude. I thought about it and then I thought, no, I don't want to be nude, and so we sort of sent back a lot of different ideas and just arrived at this like wild baby doll dress. And then one of your rules was like, nothing is dirty. There's no dirt. Yeah. And I was like, okay, shoot, I thought I was in like rags or something. And you were like, no, it's elevated. It's a like, not in doll world. And I was like, you're right. Yeah. You're right.
Everything was like a question mark and it had to be figured out. But like, cause we talked about like, cause you were like, conceived of her as like almost like an Edward Gorey type doll, and then we were like, well, is it like Miss Havisham? Is it disintegrated? My feeling was about Barbie Land, like everything is like space trash, like, you know, like well, I don't even know if this is true, but like my idea is like if you threw like a McDonald's container out into space, it like stays pristine because there's nothing to actually erode it. Is that true? I don't know. But like that it would be like crazy and recombined and like distorted, but not disintegrated somehow. It wouldn't be like falling apart in that way. It would never be moth-eaten. But it always had to be worked out of like, wow, what is it exactly?
Which was so fun, so fun.
What are you doing here?
I'm coming with you.
Did you bring your rollerblades?
I literally go nowhere without them.
I've got a question for the group. Was there any set, because I just realized, I'm like, oh yeah, you didn't get to see the weird Barbie set. Is there any set that anyone was like, oh, I never got to be on that set and I wanted to see it?
I wish everyone had been on the transportation sets.
Yes, me too.
Because they were so amazing.
Oh yeah, the transportation sets were amazing.
Incredible.
No, they were so cool.
They were
I wanted to see the Ken Supreme Court and Oval Office. I didn't get to like live in that.
Talk about the like how did you conceive of the transportation look? Because I got to be on them and they were amazing, magic. I mean, and it was all mechanical.
Yeah.
Like what? Like why? How did you come up with that?
Well, I mean, the whole thing for the whole movie, which is what was so amazing about working with all these artists on it, was I wanted to make everything as much as possible always tactile and handmade, and that's why like sort of shooting, you know, miniatures and compositing it so it doesn't feel synthetic. It feels like it's real, it's there. The transportation sequences, we'd gone through so many different versions of it, and then I just kept seeing, like, I remember as a kid building basically that, like a diorama that moved, and I put pencils and like a scrolled piece of paper that I taped together, and then you move the pencils and the background go, and I remember being like delighted by it. And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever made. I mean, essentially it was like that, but bigger. The art department sort of created kind of with the ability to, and this is where like being able to do some version of like previs but in favor of doing something very in camera is really helpful, because you're like, well, this is the angle of the camera, this is the speed that this thing is moving at. You can like do the math ahead of time. But yeah, it was like had 3 planes of movement, so the back moved slowly, the midground moved a little faster, and then the foreground always had something going quickly, like tulips on a treadmill. So it looked like they were moving quickly. It was so fun.
It was so moving. Getting to be there, it felt like being in a toy box, like in a diorama that a child would build. And like that idea of, in this day and age where you could just like digitize everything and pop a screen and make everything in a computer, like the idea to approach this movie about toys with that spirit of everything being something that looks like someone made it is like, it was moving to be on those sets, and it was like your vision was so magical.
And I feel like the crew was so thrilled too. It's like they were like finally flexing these amazing muscles they have. They're like, oh, we can do so many things and we get to do it on this movie, whether they were building life-size dream houses or hand painting mountains on a backdrop or making the dioramas.
The men who were like puppeteering butterflies.
Butterflies, yeah.
There was the bikes, and there was like a man on a ladder being like, and I was like, this is my favorite thing I've ever done.
But do you remember when we went in to see Roy, who's our stunt coordinator,
Roy,
who takes it so seriously? He was showing us what all the stunties had come up with for the Ken battle, and it was so funny. But they were, it was like he was a military general, and he was like, right, positions, 1, and they're all doing ridiculous things like giving like CPR to a toy horse or like whatever it is, or like, and a lot of like genius sort of contraptions and stuff like that.
Or like making themselves into human catapults and like all these things. It's just incredible.
And we walked out of there like both like in hysterics, but also like that was so pure how like.
Yes.
How they all felt that came together and put that together was incredible. Like so creative and silly and playful at the same time, which I think is it's indicative of this whole film, is everyone being the most creative they can be, but also being like a silly kid at the same time, knowing they have like their adult smarts to give them the ability to do it.
Right. Well, it's all like everybody who works on a movie on some level is like, you know, the kid who is like, making something strange on the playground, or it was like, I made this, or I'm doing this, and like they all got to be that kid, but like grown up, and they're like, look at what I did, like if you pull this, it rigs this way, like it's all like, and I feel like everyone from like Roy to Cera to everyone, it was like, this is like the deepest part of themselves when they made it, when there was almost like nothing to support what they were making. It just was like them and their like kooky idea.
I love that we started with the transportation sequence too. That was our first scene.
That was.
It was such a great way to start the movie, because it set the tone for the level to which you were trying to make every moment count. You know, the love and the time that you put into those sets. And how much time do they end up on screen?
Not much. Just like, boom. But it's also like, I love that when it's just like, oh my God, it's all this work, and then it's
just the like costumes that were built in triplicate for our little bits. That were like how many fittings we did for each of those costumes. That was just like a minute. Yeah. The joy of getting to wear a custom Chanel snowsuit a day. It is. It's like so much beautiful artistry in every frame.
Yeah, I don't thank you enough for the opportunity to wear a custom Chanel snowsuit.
I remember thinking when I saw you in it, I was like, they're going to be so happy. Ryan Gosling is wearing a pink onesie with Chanel things all over.
Was that the last?
Not as happy as I was.
Was that the last thing you shot? Was the pink snowsuit?
I think so, yeah.
Because the first thing you shot was the boat outfit. Because I remember when you showed up, we were like, he's really doing it.
Yeah, I still part of me. I was like, there's no way he's gonna do this.
I was like, he's gonna show up and be like, and then you showed up in that hat and that pink shirt, and I was like, okay, he's got it. And then the last thing we shot was you guys on this, I think on the snowmobile, and then you had to record yourself screaming.
That's right.
And that was it.
That's how you sent me out.
Yeah. It's like
Barbie in the real world. That's impossible.
If this got out, this could mean extremely weird things for our world. This would be catastrophic.
Greta didn't make it easy when you were like, there's a monologue. Meryl Streep says she would like to do this monologue.
I did. I actually
You did.
say
You
that.
I was like, cool, no pressure. I felt like it was. We shot it at the very end. I mean, like the end. So I felt like I was holding it for a long time, and the energy was like building, building, building. So by the time we were there, we shot it for 2 days in this house. Weird Barbie's house with like 12 people in the scene. My experience of the moment was that Greta gave me so much space and so much trust, and I obviously didn't want to F it up, and I wanted to do it justice, because I think, you know, when I read those words, it's like, oh, okay, truth, like truth telling, right? And there's no woman in my life that this isn't true for, so like, how do you tell the truth, you know? And that was just the goal, and you gave me so much space and so much trust. And I felt like I could go to all the places because I had so much trust that you would know what was right for the movie. And I felt like, similar to what you said, of like, I'm in Greta Gerwig's hands. Like, I don't know, and I don't know what's happening in your head. Like, only Greta knows what she sees and hears, and that was freedom to have so much trust in the leader of like, she'll know. So I'm free to do what I want, and she'll make it right.
It's such a powerful moment. Sorry. So powerful. Such a powerful moment in the movie, and every time I've seen it, people erupt in applause. And I have to say, like, it feels so true. And what's even more powerful about it is that it feels so authentic to you, because you have had so many moments in your career where you've said the truthful thing at the right time. Like your TED Talk is a great example. You know. So
you watched my TED Talk?
I love your TED Talk.
Oh, how have I?
Identity is your superpower. It's really powerful.
They're teary right now.
No, it's really moving, and it felt like, you know, like somehow you had.
Nice. Thanks.
No one rests until this doll is back in a box.
Even if nobody else sings along.
Humans only have one ending.
Get that Barbie!
Ideas live forever.
America, will you do it with me?
Yeah, you let America do it with me.
Yeah. This has been Entertainment Weekly's Around the Table.
With Barbie. Oh, with Barbie.
In theaters, July 21st.
That was perfect.
Thanks.